Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this video I'm just going to be showing you how to remove and install a SRAM GXP threaded bottom bracket to your road bike. So let's go ahead, let's run through the steps. Right, so here we have the bottom bracket. As you can see, it's GXP Team English, so English thread bottom bracket. Now it says on there MTB and road, so we'll just undo it. I'll get the bottom bracket out for you. So what you get in there, bottom bracket itself there. Now the non-drive side looks like that with the star shape on the dust cover for the bearing. Now that cover there just comes off easily, just falls off, so be mindful of that. And you can see the bearing in the end. So you got the non-drive side cup, this one, and then the drive side there. Now they come apart like so. That's just a plastic sleeve in the middle, stop the dirt, water getting in to the actual bearings when it's fitted inside the bottom bracket. So that just comes apart. So you got drive side, there's an arrow there, it says GXP, an arrow underneath it saying drive side. So this is a drive side cup. And if you get them muddled up, it'll say what they are just there by the threads. It says drive side BSA. So Birmingham Small Arms, if anyone wants to know what BSA stands for. So you get that like so, and then because we're fitting this to a road bike application, we don't require these two spacers that are there, so you can remove those. Now we're fitting it into a bike with, you just get a tape measure, the 68mm bottom bracket shell. So all you've got to do is get your tape measure between there and there, like so. See, 68mm, and then measure your bottom bracket of the bike, 68mm. So we don't require the spacers on there, so you can remove those off. So that's the bottom bracket, so I'll go ahead, let's get it fitted. Right, so here we have the frame, as you can see, threaded bottom bracket. Now what you want to do is you can just check by measuring across the bottom bracket area there. If you're fitting it for the first time, just make sure there is 68mm by measuring across there like that, one side to the other, and it should be roughly 33.7mm across the internal diameter there. So what we do is we start with the drive side cup. So what you want to do is get some grease and put a liberal amount of grease over the threads in there inside the frame. So grease is your friend in this. You don't want to get the bottom bracket seized in there at all, so at a later date you can't get it out. So put some grease on there, and when you've got the cup like that, drive side cup, just put some grease down inside there as well, just to help stop the water getting in, and then just run some around the thread like that. And then what you can do is get the shield for the middle. So it's got the drive side written on it, so you can put that in there like that. And then if you've got the cable guide underneath there for the external cables, what you'll find is sometimes you'll go to put the bottom bracket through and it won't go through cleanly. That's because, as you can see in there, you can just see the thread of the screw coming up through there, and it's just poking up in the way. So you may have to undo that just a few turns just to be able to get that to go through without hitting it. So once you've got it in like that, then it's, to do it up, it's anti-clockwise, so opposite thread. So you just do it up like that, make sure it's starting cleanly and it's going in easily. So if you clean the threads up, it should start nicely. So you can keep winding it in like that. It should go in quite a long way, if not all the way by hand, just depends. And then the tool to use is like that. It's got like 16 splines in it for this. Now these are always a good idea to have a tool like this, because they fit on there and you've got a good, you can't slip. Unlike a spanner or something like that, they can slip off these, especially for undoing them. Then you can get a decent ratchet in there, or a bar, 1/2 inch in the end. You can just use a tool, do it up as far as you can by hand, and once you've done that, just get your ratchet on it and finish it screwing it in all the way, and then snug it down. Now the torque on these is 34 Newton meters. Now not everybody's got a big torque wrench to do that with, so like I said, just tighten it down and then snug it up by hand with a 1/2 inch ratchet. It's plenty, and you can just snug that down. If you've got a torque wrench like I just showed, then you can set that to 34 Newton meters and then torque it up, and then we move round to the non-drive side. Right, so here we are on the non-drive side. So we got the cup again. Now what you want to do is we just put some grease round in there like that before we thread it in, and then same again, we just put some grease down on the inside there, just help it go in there over the sleeve and just keep the water out, and then again a liberal amount of grease over the threads on it, and then place it over like that. And then this side, because it's the non-drive side, this is just a standard thread on this side, so it's clockwise for doing it up. So we'll get that started in there, and then we can use the tool to thread it in. Right, so we just carry on threading that in by hand. Until it stops, and then we tighten it up again. So if you've got a torque wrench, then use that. If you haven't, then just use your ratchet, 1/2 inch drive ratchet, and just tighten that down like so. Now what you got to remember is, when you're sliding your crankset through, just remember to put the dust cover over on the non-drive side. It's got GXP written on the outside, so that just goes over like that. Just don't forget to put that in like that as you're putting the crank through. Put that back in place, and that's the installation complete. Right, so when it comes to removing the GXP, the bottom bracket, when you've removed your crank set from the bike, that washer would be normally over there, like that, just sat there, and as you remove the crank set, that washer could just fall off, or if it doesn't fall off, you can just pick it off like that and put it to one side. Keep it safe, save losing it. And now, if you haven't had the bottom bracket out before, so you don't know the history of the bike, then what you'll need is, I recommend a tool like that goes actually right over the actual cup, so it avoids it slipping or anything while you're undoing it, because it could be tight. If you've never had it out before, then they could be tight to undo. So this takes a 1/2 inch drive, either a ratchet or a bar or a couple of foot bar on it, so that way it goes on there and you've got plenty of force to undo it with. So this is the non-drive side, so put your tool on like that, you can hold it in place, and then just push down on the bar. Like I said, if you had never had this off before, it could be tight, so hence why we're using a bar on it. So you just push down on it. This is anti-clockwise for undoing, so it's a normal thread. So you just push down on it, then undo it like that. So once you got it started, a few turns, then you can go ahead and either put a ratchet on there and undo it, or if it's coming undone freely, then you should be able to undo it by hand, but if not, you can just use a ratchet. So just carry on threading that all the way out until it's removed. Like so. So that's the non-drive side. So now we'll do the drive side. Right, so here we are on the drive side where your chain rings would normally be. Now this side, the cover is fixed on there, so that doesn't come off. And what you want to do, if you've got external cable routing under there, what you want to do is a screw in there. So just back that screw off, undo it a handful of turns, just because that screw can sometimes, the plastic collar that's in the middle, it can stop it coming out sometimes after you've undone it, so it can get stuck in there. So it's always worth just backing that off if you've got external cable routing. And then for this side, same thing again. Just get the tool on a bar, and this side, being the drive side, this is opposite thread, so it's clockwise is undoing it, so pulling up on the bar to undo it like that. I say you want to undo it a few turns or more depending on how tight it is, and then we can just use the tool or the ratchet on it. And as you can see there, I can just pull the cup off the end and it'll just leave that in place, because like I said, there's a screw going up through the middle there if yours external cables, and it can just grip that, and you might be able to pull it out like so. If you can't, just undo that screw that you can see down in there and then tighten it back up once you've refitted it. So that's how you remove it. So now you've got to get your bottom bracket all cleaned up. You can clean the threads out, make sure it's all nice and clean, and then ready to go ahead and reinstall a new one. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.